Hello, all. I am Dr. Chandrima Chatterjee, Assistant Professor of Economics at Nalsar University of Law. I hope all of you have already started preparing well for your upcoming CLAT exam, especially the paper quantitative techniques. So far, we have discussed about introduction of quantitative techniques. What is quantitative techniques? What is data? What are the different components of data, and what will be the question pattern, especially in in quantitative techniques part. And then we in the last lecture video we discussed about basic mathematical operations, right? So under basic mathematical operation, which is actually the beginning of learning tools, different tools and techniques for quantitative techniques. So in the last, as I mentioned in the last lecture video, we discussed basic mathematical operations. Then uh, what are the other some additional mathematical operators apart from four basic mathematical operators? Then we learn about very important rule which is generally used to solve equations, bigger equations, right? Which is order of operation. And then we solve two numericals. So just a very quick recap that what we have discussed in the last lecture video, right? So as I mentioned that there are four basic mathematical operators all of us know, right? Addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. Apart from this basic mathematical operators, some additional mathematical operators are also used in almost every uh, uh, tools and techniques of quantitative problem solving, right? Those are exponentiation, which is exponential actually, power or root, then greater than and less than. If we are comparing between two numbers, or we are comparing between two variables, we usually use greater than, less than, and also equal to. If two variables, the values of two variables, two equations are equal, then we will use this equal sign, and if it is not equal, then not equal sign. And also similarly, just like greater than and less than, we can compare two variables, two equations, or two values even using greater than equal to sign and less than equal to sign, which we already discussed. Then very important part is part of operations, arithmetic operation, is order of operation, in which order you should perform all these operations, or you should apply all these operators, right? For this we have a specific rule which is called Bodmas rule, which we already learned in the last session, as B stands for bracket. So step by step you have to solve. Suppose a particular equation is given to you for solution, so step by step you have to solve it. First you have to you have to solve which is given, provided in the bracket. Then you have to perform operation of orders, then you have to perform operation of division, followed by multiplication, addition, and at last you have to perform the operation of subtraction if it is there, right? So this is how in a particular equation all these operators are applied, right? Step by step. So if you can recall, we already solved these two numericals, this two equations. This was our first equation, and this was our second equation, where we applied Bodmas rule. Now today we will learn about some basic arithmetic properties. So this was, so far we have discussed order of operation, that in which order you are going to apply this all these operators. But this operators also follow some properties, some rules as well, right? These are the individual rules applied to specific operators. So we will learn it. So what is arithmetic properties? It actually are the very elementary or basic rules in mathematics, which deals with, I mean, how numbers should interact with each other. Okay, so basic arithmetic properties will tell you that how numbers should interact with each other using different operations. Understanding this arithmetic property is very important. Why it is very important? Because it will just simplify your many complicated calculation. You have, suppose you have to perform a complicated calculation. If you know, if you apply this property, if you apply these properties whenever it is required, your complex problem, okay, will be transformed to a very easier one. So that's why we use this. We should learn about these arithmetic properties, and we should apply these arithmetic properties whenever it is needed, right? So today we will learn about 4 basic arithmetic properties, which is commutative property, second one is associative property, distributive property, and finally we will learn about inverse property. So let us first start with commutative property. What is commutative property? Commutative property says that even if you suppose there are 2 numbers or 2 variables a and b, so even if you change the order of these 2 numbers and perform the particular operation, whether addition or multiplication, the result will be same. The result will not change. For example, if I have 2 variables a plus b, right? So if I just change the order, if I write first b and then a, then also it will give me the same result, right? So this is the commutative property of arithmetic, right? So let us see. So this commutative property is specially applied to addition and multiplication, but it cannot be applied to subtraction or division. We will see this using example, that why it is applied to in case of addition and multiplication, and why it cannot be applied to subtraction and division, right? So suppose, as I mentioned, that I have 2 variables a plus b. So commutative property says that a plus, if you first take a and then b and then take summation, it will generate the same result if you first consider b and then a and then take the summation. So the result will be same. Let us see this. Suppose I have 2 numbers 2 and 3. I will take the summation. So I have to check whether 2 plus 3 will give me same result if I change the order of these 2 numbers. That is, first I will take 3 and then I'll consider 2. Let us see. So obviously you can see here 2 plus 3 is 5. Similarly 3 plus 2 is also 5. So here commutative property is applicable. In case of multiplication also, we will see that in case of multiplication also the same property can be applied. For example, same numbers I will consider 2, 3. So 2 into 3 will give me 6. Similarly, if I change the operation, order of these 2 variable, 2 numbers, that is, first I will take 3 and 2, then 2, then also it will give me same result, right? So this is the commutative property, but you cannot apply this commutative property in case of subtraction and division. Let us see this. So in case of subtraction, if you first take a and then take b, the result which will be generated from this particular equation will be different, will not be equal to the result which will be generated if you first consider b and then a. Sorry, it will be a. So if you first consider b and then you consider a, right? So a minus b. So suppose again I will take 2 numbers, say 10 and 5, and I'll take apply subtraction operator. So 10 minus 5, I have to check whether 10 minus 5 will give me same result as 5 minus 10. No, it will not generate same result. Like 10 minus 5 will give me 5, whereas 5 minus 10 will give me minus 5. So although the this values is same, but this is positive and this is a negative number, so they are not same in values, right? So you cannot apply this in case of subtraction. So this communicative property of arithmetic operation cannot be applied to subtraction. Same for division. In case of division also you can see, again it will be A. So A divided by B. Suppose I have taken 6 divided by 2. Okay. And I want to check whether 6 divided by 2 will give me same result if I take 2 divided by 6. So 6 divided by 2 will give me 3. But 2 divided by 6, 2 by 6 will give me, which is a fraction, will give me 1 by 3. So these two are not equal, right? So communicative property, you can apply it in case of addition and multiplication, but you cannot apply it in case of subtraction and division. Coming to associative property, so here we will make different groups of number and we will use bracket and we will see how the operators can be applied. So this property also can be applied in case of addition and multiplication, but it cannot be applied in case of subtraction and division. Let us see. So we have 3 variables here, right? A, B and C. So in this case, you can see B plus C is within the bracket. That means we have to first perform the operation of B plus C. That is, we have to take sum of B plus C first. Then we have to add it to A. So let us see this using a numerical value. And our claim is that it should be equal when we will first consider, we will first do the sum. If we first do the sum, perform the sum of A plus B and then add it to C, it will generate the same result. So let us see whether it follows or not. So suppose I have 3 numbers, 2 plus 3 plus 4. On the other hand, I have to check whether it will generate the same result if I first take sum of, if it is within bracket, the sum of 2 plus 3 and then add 4. Whether these two equation will generate the same result or not. Let us see. So here it is 2 plus 4 plus 3. So we first have to perform this operator, bracket operator, that is 4 plus 3, which is 7. And then we have to add it to 2, which will give me 9. So let us see here. Instead of adding 3 plus 4, first here we will apply the addition operator for 2 and 3 because it is within bracket, right? So 3 plus 2 will give me 5 plus, then I will add 4, which will give me 9. So you can see that even if we have changed the grouping, so first the group was 3 plus 4, you have to perform the operation of 3 and 4, this group, and then you have to add the another number. And if you change this grouping, it is generating the same result. So we will see the same result for multiplication as well, right? So in case of multiplication also, if we just change the grouping, it will generate the same kind of result. Like same I will consider, first 2 into 3 will be there in bracket, then 4, right? And I will compare whether it is equal. If I take 2 outside bracket and first I will multiply 3 plus 4, whether these two are generating similar result or not. So here first I have to perform this operation which is under within the bracket, which is 3 into 2. So 3 into 2 will give me 6. Then I have to multiply it with 4, which will give me 26 into 4, 24, right? Same if I perform here. First, I have to perform the operation of bracket. 3 into 4, 12. And then 2 into 12, 24. So in case of multiplication also, it is giving us the same result. But just like previous commutative property, it cannot be applied in case of subtraction or division. I will just show you for subtraction that it cannot be applied for subtraction. Like if you first consider subtracting b from c and then you subtract the whole result of this bracket from a, the result which will be generated from this equation will not be same if you change the grouping. So let us see this. So we can see that suppose we will take 5 minus 3 minus 2. Suppose a is equal to 5, b is equal to 3, and c is equal to 2, right? So for the first case, for the first equation, I am performing this operation. So it will give me 5 minus, first we will do the operation of bracket. So 3 minus 2 will give me 1 and my final result will be 4, right? Similarly, I will check it for the second part, that is a minus b minus c. So here a is 5, b is 3. So first I will keep these two numbers in bracket, then outside bracket there will be 2. So 5 minus 3 will give me 2 and 2 minus 2 will give me 0. So you can see this 4 is not equal to 0. Okay, so in case of subtraction, and same you can perform it for division as well, this associative property where change in grouping of numbers cannot be applicable. So in case of division also, you can test it using the numbers, just like I have done it now. So it cannot be applicable for division as well. Next property, our next property is distributive property, where it says that if you multiply a number by a sum, or if you multiply each term individually and then take sum. So first if you take multiplication and then you take addition, or first you take individual addition and then multiplication, it will generate the same result, right? For example, let us see. So this distributive property is generally used for simplifying algebraic expression. Suppose you have a very large algebraic equation. So to simplify it, we can use distributive property. So here the formula is, you can see that here also we are taking three variables a, b and c. So if I first take sum of b plus c, and if I after the summation, if I multiply it by a, it will give me the same result if I multiply a with individual term and then take summation. So suppose my a is 2, b is 3 and c is 4, right? So I will just apply it in this distributive rule. So first I will consider that first I will take the sum. So 2 into 3 plus 4. So 3 plus 4 is within the bracket. So we have to perform this first. So my equation will now become 2 into 3 plus 4, which is 7, which is 14. Right? Now if I take the second one, so this one, I will multiply 2 with individually, first with 3 and then will 4, and then I will take sum. So it will be like this: 2 into 3 plus 2 into 4, right? And let us check whether it is giving us the same result or not. So 2 into 3 will give us 6 and 4 into 2 will give us 8. So together 8 plus 6 will give me 14. So it is giving us producing the same result. So either you first take the sum and then multiply with the factor lying outside the bracket, or you multiply each term with the factor and then you take sum. It will constitute the same result. So it is distributive property. It is generally used for simplifying a bigger, larger algebraic expression. And so numerical example already I have given. And our last property which we should learn, which we apply very frequently, is inverse property. So as the term inverse, from the term inverse itself, you can guess that it means opposite value, right? So it is called identity element. So 0 is the identity element for addition and 1 is the identity element for multiplication. So if I take 2, so there will be there is an exact opposite value of 2, that is minus 2. Okay, and addition of 2 and minus 2 will produce 0. Same if I take 2, there is, in case of multiplication, there lies an opposite inverse, which we will call inverse or reciprocal. Inverse of 2 or reciprocal of 2 is 1 by 2. And if you multiply it, you will get 1. So 1 for multiplication, that's why we have written 1 for multiplication and 0 for addition. So this is called, for addition, it is called additive inverse. Any number plus its negative equals 0. Just I mentioned 2 plus minus 2 will produce 0. On the other hand, there is the second inverse is multiplicative inverse, where any non-zero number, your number should be non-zero, any non-zero number times its reciprocal. As I mentioned, that reciprocal of 2 is 1 by 2. Reciprocal of 3 is 1 by 3, right? So suppose my number is 5 and reciprocal of 5 is 1 by 5. So if I multiply this, 5 will cancel out and I will only have the result is 1. So this 1 is called multiplicative inverse. So these are the 4 properties which we learned here. One is communicative, second one is associative, third one is distributive, and this fourth one is inverse property. We very conveniently we use all this property in solving mathematical equations and solving numericals, right? Next we will solve some textual problem, which you can generally expect in your CLAT exam. The format which I have shared, that there will be a textual data, and from that data you have to deduce, you have to infer the numerical information, and you have to apply different tools. So here also, using basic operators, there will be a textual format, a textual information. From there we have to gather numerical information, and using different operators which we have already learned here in the previous lecture and in this lecture, using those operators we will solve the questions, okay, associated with it. So let us move to the first problem. So you can see that the numerical problem is given in a framework of a story or caselet. We will call it caselet. So it says that Ram, who is a person, recently lost his job due to downsizing in his company and has been relying on his savings while searching for a new job. So he does not have a job now and he is searching for a new job. His monthly expenses are given like this. So monthly expenses for rent, utilities, food and healthcare total is 1500. So you have to first point out, in this kind of problem, you always have to first point out the numerical value. So here our main numerical value, that is total monthly expense. It is already since we are solving it for the first time, this kind of problem, so I have already keep it in bold. So monthly expense is 1500. He has also a savings with him, previous savings, which is 6000. Okay, which he is drawing from each. He is drawing each month to cover this essential because he does not have job. So he has certain expenses, obviously, and from where he is getting these expenses? From his previous savings, which is 6000. He hopes to find a new job within 4 months, but he knows it could take longer time given the current job market. He is considering ways to stretch his savings by cutting down on non-essential expenses and is exploring part-time work options to supplement his income temporarily. So in this kind of case, some information can be a little less relevant. Whether most relevant information will be your numerical information. So here most relevant information are, there are two most relevant numerical information, which is what is total monthly expenses. Okay, and a consolidated amount is given by totaling all these factors: rent, utilities, food, and healthcare, which is 1500, and how much savings he is having. So these are the most relevant information for our further operations, whatever we will perform. So the first question is, how many months can Ram sustain himself on his current savings if he only relies on them for his essential expenses? So total savings we have 6000, right? And per month, monthly, that is per month, total his expense per month is 1500. So with this 6000 rupees, how many months he can continue his monthly expenses? So it is very easy. So my total savings is given 6000, total amount of available money is given 6000, and per month I am spending, Ram is spending 1500. So to find out the number of months, we have to divide this total amount with per month amount. That is how much I am. So in the numerator, so in case month, to find out months, number of months, this is a fraction. So in the numerator, we will have total savings, which is 6000, and in the denominator we have per month expenses, which is 1500, and 6000 by 1500 will give you, all this will cancel out, and it will give you 15 into 4, 60. So 15, if you cancel, if you just divide it, you will find 4. So our answer will be 4. So with this savings of 6000 in his account and spending 1500 every month, he can continue till 4th month. I mean, he's how many months here is the question. So the answer will be 4 months, right? Let us move to the next question with the same problem. Next question is, Ram finds a part-time job that provides an additional 500 per month. How many months will his savings last? Now the scenario has changed, right? He managed to find out a part-time job which gives him a salary of 500 per month. His expenses, monthly expense is same, and his savings is also same. Given this, additionally numerical information which we will have here is 500 additionally he is getting from his job, part-time job. So now the question is, how many months will his savings last? So first we have to find out given that he is getting some salary, which is 500 from his current job, how much he has to withdraw from his savings now for each month. So his total expense, we know that his total expense is that is same. There is no change in total expense, which is 1500. And now from salary, he is getting 500. So how much he has to arrange? How much he has to arrange from his savings or from other sources, that we have to find out. So 1500 I have to spend, but I am only getting 500 from my current job. So how much I have to arrange from my savings or other sources? So obviously you will subtract. You will subtract 1500 minus 500, which will give you 1000. Right? So 1000 every month he has to draw from his savings, given that he is getting 500 salary. So again we will apply the previous rule, that with 1000 drawing each month from his savings, how many months he can continue with his savings of 6000. So number of months he can continue with his savings is, in the numerator, total savings he is having, that is 6000, and now he is drawing 1000 per month, so it will be 6. All this will cancel out and we will have only 6. So now with part-time job he can continue 6 months with his current salary. Right? Our third question, moving to our third question of problem 1. What is the minimum monthly income he would need to avoid dipping into his savings at all? So for this you don't have to calculate anything. So what is his monthly expense? His monthly expense is 1500. So if he earned at least this 1500 each month, then he has not to draw anything from his savings. He is not required to draw any money from his savings. So the answer is, since his monthly expense is 1500, if he earn at least minimum 1500, then from his salary itself he can make all the expenses. He need not to draw any money from his savings. So for this answer you have to think intuitively. You don't have to apply any operators, right? So this was our problem 1. Now moving to problem 2, which is a bigger one. So you can see here also we have some numerical information, like Sophie recently graduated from university and started her first job with a monthly income of 3000. So first numerical information is monthly income of Sophie is 3000, right? However, she has a student loan debt of 40,000. This is the second numerical information, with a fixed monthly payment rupees 400. Right? So the loan amount paid each month, which can be considered as EMI, is 400. In addition to the loan, Sophie has the monthly expenses as well. Now here for each head, monthly expenses are given. So Sophie is paying 1200 for rent, 300 for utilities, 250 for groceries, and 150 for transportation. Right? So apart from paying EMI or loan per month, he has this 4 heads of expenses: rent, utility, grocery, and transportation. Sophie is determined to pay off her loan in the next 5 years, but she is also hoping to save for a trip to celebrate her graduation, which she estimates will cost 2000. This is another important numerical information, that she wants to save 2000 for a trip, right? Given her current expenses, Sophie is trying to find out how much she can realistically save each month without affecting her loan payment. So what are the informations we have? We have information of total monthly income of Sophie, which is 3,000. We have information that about her total loan amount. Her total loan amount is 40,000. We have information that every month he is paying loan in the form of, say, EMI is 400. And she has other expenses also, like rent, utility, grocery, and transportation. And the final numerical information is that she wants to save 2,000. So let us see the first question. What are Sophie's total monthly expenses including the loan bill? So this is very easy. We have to find out total monthly expenses including loan payment. So for loan, so our variables here are loan plus rent plus utility plus grocery plus transportation. Okay, and if we add this 5 item, which is 400 plus 1200 plus 300 plus 250 and finally 150 for transport. So let us see how much we will get. So 400 plus 1200 plus 300 plus 250 plus 150 will give you 2300. Okay. So this is the total monthly expenses of Sophie, right? So you have to do a rough calculation. You cannot use calculator. So in the beside there will be pages for rough work, so where you can do this rough calculation and you can find out the total monthly expenses is 2,300. Second question is, how much money can Sophie save each month after covering all expenses? So this is also very easy, right? So we want to find out savings, and how savings we can find out. So savings is income minus expenses. That is the formula for savings. Okay, individual savings, business savings, whatever it is, if we subtract our total expense from total income, we will get savings. So our Sophie's monthly income is 4,000, and from the previous problem we have seen that his monthly expenses is 2300. Sorry, it is not 4,000, it is 3,000. So 3,000 minus 2300, right? So it will give you 700. So his monthly expenses, sorry. So the second question was actually that how much money can Sophie save each month after covering. So savings, as I am writing it again, savings is income minus expenditure, right? So here income is 3,000, and from the previous problem we have seen that her total expenditure is 2300, which is 2,300, and if we subtract total expenses from total income, we will get 700. So each month Sophie will be able to save 700, right? So just remember it, that because we will use this information for the next problem, that each month Sophie will be able to save 700. Okay, given this data. Next question is, says if she saves consistently, so every month if she saves 700, how long will it take to save 2,000 for her trip, right? So he has a target of 2000, and every month she is saving 700. Right? Every month she is saving 700. So she has a target to save 2000. So again, number of months required is 2000. So total she has to save 2000, and every month she is saving 700. So 2000 by 700 will give us the number of months required to reach this target, and it will be nearly somewhere around 2.8 months, which you can say almost 3 months. So it is coming in fraction, okay, because it is not complete divisible. 2000 is not completely divisible by 700, so it will come in fraction, and it will be nearly somewhere 2.8 months, which we can say that almost 3 months. So Sophie needs almost 3 months to save this 2000 rupees for her trip to reach to this target, right? So this is the type of question which you can expect. Our fourth question is, will her loan balance be fully paid in 5 years at her current payment rate? Right? So her current payment rate is 400 per month. So per month she is paying 400. So in 1 month, if she can pay 400 in 1 month, how much she will pay in 12 months? First we have to find out, because we have to find out whether yes or no kind of question, whether she will be fully able to pay it in 5 years. So in 12 months, okay, how much she will be able, or in 1 year, 12 months mean in 1 year, how much she will be able to pay. So if she pays every month 400, so in 12 month he will be able to pay 12 into 4, 48, which is 4800. So in 1 year she is paying 4800, right? So in 1 year she is being able to pay 4800. So whether she will be able to pay it in 5 years or not, if she pays at 400 per month, what do you think? So for that, again the same principle we have to apply, that if she pays every year, if she pays 4800, the number of years required to pay the loan is the total loan amount by each year how much she is paying, right? And if you divide it, you will see that she will not be able to pay it in 3 months, because you can see from this fraction. So if I divide it by 4, both numerator and denominator, it is coming again. I will divide it by 2. 50 by 7. And if I divide it, so 7 into 7, 49. 1 is left over. So 7 into 0.0, which is 7, 3 is left over, and it will continue like this. So if I take one decimal point, so it is coming 7.1. So number of years required is coming approximately 7.1 year, which means the answer is no here. Sophie will not be able to pay back her loan in 5 years. Because we have seen what we have done. First, we have considered her per month payment of loan. Then we have multiplied it with 12 months to find out in 1 year how much she is paying. So in 1 year she is paying approximately 4,000. I mean, she's into 400 multiplied by 12. We are getting she is paying 4,800 each year. Now, if she pays 4,800 in each year, how many years will be required to pay back this entire 40,000? For that, we have to divide 40,000 total loan amount by loan amount paid each year. So 40,000 by 4800. And with this simplification, we have seen that it is almost coming 7.1 months approximately. It is not the exact value, but it's coming 7.1 years. So here the answer will be no. That no, he will not be able to fully pay his loan back in 5 years. So this is all about today. So this kind of question you may get in your CLAT exam in your quantitative techniques paper. In the next, so this is all about basic operations and how basic operators can be used in solving this kind of problem where a caselet is given and you have to collect all the numerical information, and based on the numerical information and applying operators, you have to answer the question. In the next video, we will learn about ratio and proportion, and also we will solve some similar kind of caselet related problem. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening. I hope you will practice this kind of numerical problems more and more, because practice makes a man perfect. So please practice this kind of problems as much as possible, right? So let's meet in the next video lecture. Thank you very much.